My sister and her husband moved into my parents' house and got angry when I refused to take care of their kids so they could rest. My parents took their side, so I left and stopped paying their bills. My name is Anna. I'm 28, and until recently, I lived with my parents in a house where I grew up. It wasn't exactly thrilling to still be there at my age, but my job at a clothing store didn't pay enough for me to move out on my own. The house is big, 3 bedrooms, with a backyard where my dad spends his days tending to his plants. My mom is always in the kitchen or watching TV. I'm the one who pays the rent and utilities, electricity, water, internet. Everything comes out of my pocket. My parents have pensions, but they only use them for groceries and basics. That's how things worked for the last 2 years, and while it wasn't perfect, we managed fine. That is, until my older sister and her husband showed up and turned everything upside down. My sister is 32 and has 2 kids, a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. She and her husband have been saying for months that things were tough. He works at an auto shop, but according to them, the money wasn't enough to cover their apartment rent. One afternoon, without warning, they showed up at the door with suitcases, the kids running down the hallway, and an excuse that it would only be temporary. My parents didn't object. "It's family," my mom said while making tea. "We have to help each other." I didn't say anything that day. I thought maybe it would be short-term and they'd contribute something. I was wrong. The first month was chaos. The kids screamed all the time, broke things, and left toys scattered everywhere. My sister and her husband didn't seem too interested in keeping them in check. "They're bored," they'd say, as if that justified the house turning into a mess. Instead of setting rules, my mom played with the kids and called them adorable. My dad only complained if the noise interrupted his favorite shows. I'd come home exhausted from working 9 to 3, and instead of resting, I'd find the living room full of crumbs and the walls marked with crayons. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst was that no one else paid for anything. I kept covering the rent and utilities while they lived there for free. One morning at breakfast, my sister said something that floored me. "Anna, could you watch the kids this afternoon? We need a break." She said it so casually while cutting an apple. I stopped chewing my bread and looked at her. A break from what? I asked. She sighed, like I was slow for not getting it. "From the kids. We're exhausted." Her husband nodded. "Yeah, it'd be nice to go out for a bit. You don't have kids. Anna, you don't know how hard it is." I wanted to throw my plate at them, but held back. "Why don't you take turns resting?" "Why me?" I said, try not to sound as angry as I felt. My sister frowned. "Because you're here. You don't have anything to do after work." Her husband added, "It's just for a bit. Don't be dramatic." I felt something snap inside me. Not only were they living in the house I paid for, but now they wanted me to be their free babysitter. Before I could respond, my mom chimed in. "Anna, don't be selfish. They're your niece and nephew." I turned to her, incredulous. "Selfish? I pay the rent for this house, the electricity, the water, everything, and now I have to watch their kids." My dad looked up from his newspaper. "We all have to pitch in, Anna. That's what families do." I wanted to yell that pitching in didn't mean me doing everything while they did nothing, but I bit my tongue. That afternoon, when I got home from work, the kids were alone in the living room watching TV, surrounded by cookie wrappers. My sister and her husband had gone to rest. My mom was in the kitchen humming, and my dad was in the backyard like nothing was wrong. The boys saw me and started yelling for juice. The girl was crying because she wanted more cookies. I tried to calm them down, but I was furious. It wasn't fair. I went to my room, shut the door, and started thinking. This couldn't go on. The next few days were more the same. My sister and her husband would leave the kids lying around, expecting someone else to deal with them. My parents not only said nothing, but gave me dirty looks if I complained. One night, my mom said, "Anna, you should help more instead of sulking." That hurt, but I let it go. I thought maybe I could talk to my sister and set boundaries. Wrong again. The following Friday was when everything blew up. I came home from work exhausted, wanted to crawl into bed and forget the world. But when I walked in, I saw my sister and her husband on the couch, laughing at a movie while the kids ran wild. The table was covered in dirty dishes, and the floor was sticky with spilled juice. I lost it. This place is a disaster. I said, dropping my bag at the door, "Can't you clean up a little?" My sister looked at me like I'd said something crazy. "What's wrong with you, Anna? We're relaxing for the first time in weeks." "Relaxing?" I repeated, raising my voice. "I pay for this house. I work all day, and you turn it into a pigsty. And then you expect me to watch your kids?" Her husband stood up from the couch. "We're not asking you to do everything, just to help a little. Don't be so dramatic." My mom came out of the kitchen. "Anna, lower your voice. Don't talk like that." My dad appeared behind her with his usual, "I don't want trouble" face. "We're all doing what we can." That was it. Something broke inside me. "You're not doing anything." I shouted, "I pay the rent, the utilities, and you live here like it's a hotel. I'm done." My sister stood up, furious. "So what, you're gonna kick us out? You're unbelievable." Her husband backed her up. "I thought you had more heart, Anna." My parents joined in. My mom said, "Don't be ungrateful. They need help." My dad muttered, "Family sticks together." I looked at the four of them, one by one, and felt a rage I'd never felt before. But what pushed me over the edge was what happened next. The boy, who was playing nearby, knocked a glass cup on the floor. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, and no one did anything. My sister just said, "Oops, sorry," and kept arguing with me. Her husband didn't move. My parents looked at the mess, and then at me, like they expected me to clean it up. That's when I knew I was done. "You know what?" I said, trembling with anger. "This is over. I'm leaving." My mom's eyes widened. "Where are you going?" "Anywhere but this circus," I replied. I stormed upstairs, grabbed a suitcase from the closet, and started throwing my clothes in. My sister followed, yelling, "You can't leave us like this. What are we supposed to do without the rent?" I looked her in the eye. "That's your problem. I'm not your bank." My mom came in, crying, "Anna, please don't do this." My dad stood at the door, saying, "Think it over," but I wasn't listening anymore. I zipped the suitcase, grabbed my bag, and headed downstairs. My sister followed, insulting me. "You're selfish. You're going to ruin us." Her husband shouted from the living room, "Come back when you realize what you've lost." The kids were crying, my parents were pleading, but I'd made my decision. I walked out, dragging my suitcase, my heart pounding. I had no idea where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. A friend picked me up after a desperate text. As we drove away, I saw my family at the door, shouting and gesturing. I didn't look back. I was furious, hurt, but also free. This wasn't the end, but it was a start. 5 days had passed since I left my parents' house. I was living on my friend Sarah's couch, a co-worker who offered her living room when I told her everything that night. It wasn't ideal, sleeping among cushions with a blanket that barely covered me, but it was better than staying in a house where everyone expected me to solve their problems. My phone started ringing the first day. It was my mom. I didn't answer, letting it vibrate on Sarah's table until she gave up. By the third day, the text started. "Anna, please talk to me. We're family. You can't do this." I read them and deleted them. I had nothing to say. Work at the clothing store became my refuge. I'd show up early, organize hangers, and help customers with a smile I didn't fully feel. My co-workers noticed something was off, but didn't ask much. Sarah was the only one who knew everything, and she kept telling me I'd done the right thing. "You can't carry them forever," she'd say while we ate sandwiches on break. I nodded, but deep down I felt not. Cutting ties with my family wasn't easy, even if I was furious. On the 7th day, everything blew up again. It was a quiet Tuesday at the store. I was folding shirts at the counter when I saw my mom and sister walk through the front door. They looked ready for a fight. My mom's eyes were red, like she'd been crying, and my sister had that superior air she always used when she wanted her way. Customers gave them odd looks, but they marched straight to me. "Anna, we need to talk," my mom said, louder than necessary. My sister crossed her arms. Yeah, enough of your drama. I tried to stay calm. I'm working. This isn't the time. But my sister cut me off. You have no idea what you've done to us. The rent's due in a week, and we don't have money. What do you expect us to do? My mom nodded. Come back home, Anna. We're family. We can't go on like this. I stared at them, feeling the anger rise again. Come back? So I can keep paying for everything while you do nothing? No. My sister stepped forward, almost shouting. You're selfish. You've always been like this, only thinking about yourself. My mom tried to soften it. Anna, please. We need you. Don't be harsh. But I'd made my decision that night I left, and I wasn't backing down. I'm not coming back. Figure out how to pay your own way. It's not my problem. The words came out colder than I meant, but they were true. They didn't give up easily. My sister switched tactics. After everything we've done for you, you treat us like this? You forgot when I lent you money for that course years ago? Or when Mom took care of you when you were sick? My mom nodded, tears in her eyes. We gave you everything. Anna, how can you repay us like this? They tried to guilt me, but it didn't work. Those favors didn't erase what they put me through these past months. That doesn't mean I have to support you now. I said firmly, please leave. They didn't budge. My sister raised her voice, calling me a traitor, saying I was leaving them on the street. Customers started staring, some whispering. My boss, who was at the register, signaled one. Signaled to ask if I needed help. I nodded. Please call security. I said loudly. My mom went pale. What? You're kicking us out like we're thieves. My sister shouted, this isn't over. But before they could continue, 2 store security guards arrived and asked them to leave. They went, my mom crying, my sister yelling insults, but they left. When the door closed behind them, I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, but I felt peace for the first time in a long while. No one was telling me what to do with my life or my money anymore. My coworkers looked at me with a mix of surprise and support. Sarah came over and patted my shoulder. Well done, she said. I just smiled, though inside I was still processing everything. Weeks passed, and things started to improve. One afternoon, my boss called me into her office. I thought it was about the incident with my mom and sister, but it wasn't. Anna, you've been doing great work, she said. We want to promote you to store manager. I wasn't expecting it. The position came with a raise, more responsibility, but also more stability. I accepted without hesitation. With the new salary, I started looking for a place of my own. I didn't want to keep crashing on Sarah's couch. A month later, I signed a lease for a small but nice apartment in a quiet building with a bright living room, a tiny kitchen, and a balcony where I could put a chair and watch the street. Moving was strange. Packing my things into boxes, buying cheap furniture, sleeping in a bed that was just mine. It was the first time I'd lived alone, and while it took getting used to the silence, I liked it. I finally felt like my money was mine, and I didn't owe anyone explanations. One afternoon, while having coffee with Sarah on my new balcony, she told me something that stunned me. Hey, did you know your sister sold your parents' house? I stared, thinking she was joking. She nodded. A neighbor I know told me. Apparently, she forged your parents' signatures to sign the papers, took all the money, and left with her husband. No one knows where they went. I was in shock. I couldn't believe my sister was capable of something like that. Or maybe I could, but didn't want to accept it. What about my parents? I asked. Sarah shrugged. I don't know. The neighbor said they're devastated. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of my sister stealing from my parents kept swirling in my head. I was furious with her, but also worried about them. Even though they'd treated me poorly, they were my parents. I wondered what they'd do now, with no house, no nothing. But I didn't have to wait long to find out. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mom. I hesitated, but answered, and that's when the next chapter of this madness began. It was a quiet afternoon in my new apartment. I was sitting on a balcony with a cup of tea, watching the sun dip behind the buildings. The silence was strange, but starting to feel nice. A day had passed since Sarah told me about the house sale, and I still couldn't get out of my head. My sister had crossed a line I never imagined. Forging my parents' signatures to sell the house and take the money was something I hadn't even considered in my worst thoughts. I wondered where she was now, with her husband and kids, spending what wasn't hers. But I didn't have time to dwell on it. My phone rang. It was my mom. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen, torn between answering or ignoring it. Weeks had passed since the store incident, and I didn't want more drama. But something told me this time was different. I swiped to answer. "Anna," my mom said, her voice breaking. "It's me." Before I could respond, I heard a sob, then my dad's voice in the background. "Please don't hang up." I sighed. "What's going on?" Through tears, my mom started talking. "Your sister sold the house. She tricked us, used our signatures somehow, and took everything. She left us on the street." My dad cut in, his voice shaky. "We're in a cheap hotel, Anna. We have nothing. We're so sorry for everything." I listened to them cry on the other end, and for a moment, I went blank. I felt anger, sadness, confusion. "How did you let this happen?" I asked, though I knew there wasn't a good answer. My mom tried to explain. "We didn't see it coming. She said she was going to fix some papers, that she'd help with the money. We trusted her." My dad added, "We were wrong, Anna. We treated you badly, put you in the middle of everything. Please forgive us." Their words were sincere, but they hurt. I remembered the times they called me selfish, how they begged me to come back like nothing had happened. And now, homeless and broke, they were turning to me again. I took a deep breath. "You should sue her," I said. "What she did is illegal. Can you get anything back?" There was a pause. My mom spoke softly. "We don't have money for a lawyer, and we can't. She's our daughter." I froze. "Even after she stole everything?" My dad said, "It's complicated, Anna. We don't want to lose her completely." I couldn't believe it. After what my sister had done, they were still protecting her. I felt a mix of frustration and pity. I thought about hanging up, letting them deal with their mess. They partly deserved it, but I couldn't. They were my parents, and even though they'd failed me, I knew my sister had manipulated them too. She always had, guilting them, convincing them her choices were best. I'd been the only one to stand up to her, and that's why they'd targeted me. But now, hearing them so broken, I couldn't fully turn my back. "I'll help you one last time," I said firmly. "How much do you need to get by?" My mom hesitated. "We don't want to take advantage." "Just tell me," I insisted. My dad mumbled. "Something for a few months to find a place to live." I did quick math. With my new manager's salary, I could give them a decent amount without destabilizing myself. "I'll give you money for 3 months," I said. "That's enough to rent something small and start over. But that's it. Don't ask for more, and don't contact me after this." I heard a weak thank you from my dad, followed by more tears from my mom. "You're good, Anna," she said. "I'm so sorry we failed you." I didn't respond to that. I asked for an account number, made the transfer from my phone while we were still on the call, and when it was done, I said, "It's done. Take care of yourselves, and think about suing her, even if you don't want to." My mom sobbed. "We can't. She's our daughter." I sighed. "Then that's your choice. Goodbye." I hung up before they could say more. My dad's final thank you got cut off mid-sentence. I stared at the phone for a while, my heart heavy. I'd sent them $3,000, enough for 3 months of rent and food in a modest place. It was more than I wanted to give, but less than they could have asked for if I hadn't set a limit. I felt relieved to help, but also exhausted. This was the end of something, and I knew it. I didn't want to go back to that dynamic where everyone relied on me, where my sister could get away with everything and my parents justified her. Days passed and life moved on. At the store, my new role as manager kept me busy. Scheduling, managing inventory, training new staff. The extra pay let me furnish my apartment better, a dining table, a nice lamp for the living room. Sarah came over sometimes, and we chat about simple things, movies, work, the weather. She never brought up my family again, and I didn't ask. It was like we closed that door together. One night, while sorting through old photos I found in a box, I thought about my parents. I wonder if they were okay, if they'd found a place. I also thought about my sister, where she might be with that stolen money. I didn't feel like tracking her down or hating her. I just wanted her to stay far away. I'd done what I could for my parents, and now it was my turn to live for myself. I put the photos in a drawer and closed the box. Sometimes, the silence in my apartment felt heavy. I'd sit on the balcony, watching the city lights, and feel a strange emptiness. It was odd not having anyone yelling, demanding something, filling the space with noise. I'd gone from a house full of chaos to a place where it was just me, and that made me feel lonely. But there was also peace. For the first time, my money was mine. No rent to pay for others. No utilities to cover for a family that didn't appreciate it. It was just mine, and that made me feel free, even if the price was as quiet that sometimes hurt. I went to bed that night with that thought. The emptiness was there, like a soft shadow in the corner of my life, but the peace outweighed it. I'd built something for myself, with my own effort, and no one could take it away. I closed my eyes and, for the first time in a long time, slept without nightmares.